Welcome to China Today. I'm Li Li from Guangxi Normal University. In this section, I am going to introduce to you an overview of China's education in 70 years. This section covers two parts. Education Minister summing up educational achievements and 70 years in retrospect. On the afternoon of September 26, 2019, Education Minister Chen Baosheng attended the second press conference at the Press Center for the celebration of the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. Reviewing China's educational development over the past 7 decades, Chen noted that China's education system had undergone dramatic changes thanks to the relentless efforts of those working in the education sector. He added that educational achievements benefited every family and every individual. Chen then summed up the achievements in 5 points. First, China has built the world's largest education sector with 519,000 educational institutions, 276 million students, and 16.7 million full-time teachers. Second, China has leapfrogged to the mid to top of world education rankings. Taking higher education, for example, over 60% of the country's high-level talents work in higher education institutions, which undertake over 60% of the country's basic and key research projects, manage over 60 of national key laboratories, and have won over 60% of prizes at the latest National Science and Technology Awards ceremony. These numbers demonstrate the unparalleled contribution made by HEIs to the country's overall strength. Third, China has established a comprehensive and well-functional education system with sound structure. Over the past 70 years, 270 million Chinese people in all received higher education and vocational education. In 2018, 48.2% of new entrants to the workforce had higher education qualifications, with on average 30.6 years of education. This data shows that education is an important channel for human resource development. Fourth, the education sector has increased international exchange at different levels, including basic, vocational, and higher education. The high quality and distinctive features of basic education have been widely acknowledged around the world, as manifested by the introduction of various Chinese textbooks into overseas schools, and the outstanding performance of Chinese students in the OECD's Program for International Student Assessment, PISA. China has become the country of choice for the largest number of international students and the most popular destination for foreign students from Asia. In addition, China has become a full signatory of Washington Accord, an influential international mutual recognition agreement between national engineering regulatory bodies. Fifth, China has established a financial mechanism that underpins the national strategy of prioritizing education. In 2012, the aim of raising government funding for education to 4% of GDP was finally achieved. And this percentage has been maintained above that level ever since. In 2018, the total expenditure for education reached 4.5 trillion RMB, with an average annual growth of 30.4% over 1949. Spending on education occupies the largest share in public expenditure. This financial support has spurred robust growth in the education sector. 70 years in retrospect. Generally, China's education has experienced three major periods in the past 7 decades. The period of 1949 to 1978 marks the new beginnings. The 1978 to 2012 period is reform and opening up, while the new period since 2012 is toward renaissance, along with the realization of great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. In 1949, the People's Republic of China was founded. Since then, education has sat as a priority to reinvigorate a country in tatters. During the first period of educational development, new educational systems were established. Socialist education guidelines introduced. Universities set up. What's more, a large-scale literacy campaign and a major reform of the writing system of the Chinese language were launched. During the second period, as the country started to open its door to the rest of the world, China's education started to gain great momentum. Deng Xiaoping proposed that education should be modern, aligned with the rest of the world, and turned toward the future. Legislation was introduced to provide the institutional infrastructure required for education. More and more government-funded students were sent overseas for further studies. The tradition of respect for teachers and education was revived. And all-round development of students was prioritized. Universal access to 9-year compulsory education was achieved, greatly boosting the equity of education. Higher education underwent a step change in development. In barely 5 decades, China achieved what the West only managed to achieve in over a century. In November 1995, Project 211 was officially launched, which was designed to create 100 major institutions of higher learning and a number of key disciplines to meet the needs of the 21st century. This marks a major step in implementing the strategy of invigorating China through science and education. Project 985 was launched in 1998. In May of this year, Jiang Zemin attended the centennial celebration of Peking University. He said, in order to modernize itself, China needs to have more world-class universities. The government decided to support the creation of a number of world-class universities and internationally acclaimed research institutions. In November 2004, the first Confucius Institute was established in Seoul, Korea. By December 2018, China has built 449 Confucius Institutes and 1,193 Confucius classrooms in 154 countries and regions. These institutes and classrooms serve as a cultural bridge between China and the world. Since the 8th CPC National Congress held in 2012, under the leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Xi Jinping as its core, and guided by Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, China's education has entered a new era. Great importance is attached to students' moral development and the ideological and political education in schools. Measures are taken to achieve poverty alleviation through education and refine the education subsidy scheme, aimed at providing people with better access to education. Efforts have been made to help a group of top Chinese universities and disciplines earn world-class status, and boost the development of educational institutions of all kinds and at all levels. China takes on an active role in international education governance, laying the foundations for the Belt and Road Initiative. In sum, a blueprint for education modernization is developed. China's education shifts its focus from quantity to quality. To conclude, China's education system has undergone dramatic changes over the past 70 years. The educational achievements benefited every family and every individual in China. China is making new efforts to create a better education at all levels for its people. Dear students, this lecture comes to an end now. See you next time.